Last question. Find the exact solutions, real or imaginary, for each equation, or if no solution, write none. So we'll just start with A. We always want to isolate the radical or the exponent first, which this one is. And then in order to undo that, we're going to use this index as our exponent. And whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So we get A plus 2. So the index and the exponent cancel out because they are inverses. And so we get A plus 2 is equal to 8. We're going to subtract 2 from each side. And so we get A is equal to 6. For B, we're going to subtract 6 from both sides first because we want to isolate the exponent. So these add to 0. We get B cubed is equal to negative 8. And just like we did up here, cubing something is the inverse of cube rooting something, which means that cube rooting has to be the inverse of cubing. So because I have B cubed here and I want to get it to just B to the first, I'm going to take the cube root on this side, and whatever I do to one side, I do to the other. The index and the exponent are inverses, so we're just left with B over here. When we take the cube root of negative 8, that means that we're going to have a negative answer. And so if we think about the cube root of 8, the cube root of 8 is 2 because 2 times 2 times 2 is 8. And so the cube root of negative 8 would be negative 2. For C, again, we want to isolate the radical first. And so we're going to subtract 6 from both sides. And we have the square root of C minus 2 is equal to negative 4. In this case, we don't have a solution because we can't square that negative. Sorry, I can't take the square root of a number and get a negative because the definition of a square root is that when you take the square root of a number, it's a positive answer. So this one here would actually be no solution. And for the last one, we have x squared is equal to negative 4. So the difference, I'm sure that some of you are probably wondering, well, what's the difference between this one and this one? On this one, we're going to take the square root of a negative number. On this one, we are trying to square a negative number. If I were to square this here, just to show you, we would get C minus 2 is equal to 16, and then add 2 to both sides to get C is equal to 18. But if I were to plug 18 in here, I have 18 minus 2 is equal to 16, and the square root of 16 is positive 4, not negative 4. So that's why we have no solution here. On this one, however, we are taking the square root of a negative number, and we have that I now that allows us to take the square root of negative numbers. So this would turn into an I, and now we take the square root of 4, which is 2. And remember that we have to take both the positive version and the negative version of that answer, and so x would be equal to positive and negative 2i.